Hi, how's it going, guys? I'm here for day 2 of Saving Mr. Terupt. Um, if you are watching, make sure you comment and say hi. And I'm gonna go through. We're about this far through, not very far yet. And we are going to start out today with the chapter on Danielle. I'm gonna see if anybody is gonna hop on. I am going to. How do I share this live chat? Oh, there it is. All righty. Gonna share it to Google Classroom so you guys can see. I see that someone's watching, so say hi if you're watching. Trying to find Google Classroom so I can just upload this link so you guys can see it. Who's there? Hey, Drift, how's it going? Glad you can join us. Oh my goodness, this whole thing. Drift, how are you doing? How's your Monday going? Hey, Haley, how's it going? Thanks for watching. My day's going pretty well. I have eaten lunch and I was working on a puzzle and I uploaded a bunch of stuff to Google Classroom. I'm excited to read the next part of this. I don't know if you guys saw my video earlier, but Rocco has definitely been very needy today. He might come over and try and join our live stream. Who knows? He's sleeping right now, so maybe not. All righty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started since we're at least a couple of us are here. All right. So the last time we read, Mr. Terupt, they tried to go to Mr. Terupt to visit him, the whole gang did, and he wasn't there. So they decided to go to the restaurant, and Alexi paid Peter back with a salt trick. Anyway, so today we're going to start with Danielle. You saw Rocco. He's a goofy boy. He's over on my couch right now taking a little nap. Hopefully he will stay over there and I can keep reading to you guys. All right, Danielle. I don't know what it is, Danielle, but men aren't very smart, Anna said. We were in my bedroom after coming home from Lexi's restaurant. I was sitting on my bed with my sketchbook while Anna paced in front of me. She was quiet as a mouse in school, but as wild as a caged lion at home. I loved that about her. Now you're sounding like Grandma, I said. That made her crack a smile, but just a quick one. What's taking Charlie so long? She asked. Farmers are careful planners, Anna, not impulsive people. For crying out loud, how long does he need? If you ask me, it's about time. Patience, Anna. Patience makes the world go round. Now you're sounding like Grandma. Anna, come on, honey, her mom called from downstairs. It was time for her to go home. Anna stayed over sometimes, but her mother never did. She and Charlie wouldn't do that until they were married. Grandma might have loved Anna and her mother, but she wasn't about to allow that to happen. Be right down, Anna called. We knelt by my bedside and said our prayers, same as we did every night that we were together. We'd been doing it ever since we declared ourselves half-sisters. I said the prayer this time, but sometimes Anna did the talking. Dear God, we thank you for a great afternoon. It was a lot of fun having everyone together, but now we have a couple of things to ask you. First off, please help the ignorant men of the world, like Charlie, figure out what they're supposed to do and say. And if possible, we'd like that sooner rather than later. That was good, Anna whispered to me. I knew she'd like that. And lastly, we'd also like it if you could check in on Mr. and Mrs. Terupt. Both of them were absent today, and it had us nervous. Please don't let them ever experience anything bad again, like when Mr. Terupt was in his coma almost 2 years ago. Thank you. Amen. Anna gave me a hug and then headed home. October. Anna. I spent the night at Danielle's, so I got up early and went and found Charlie in the barn, just like I knew I would. He was already busy with the milking. He started every day the same way. Do you like spending your mornings with these cows? I asked him. He was putting the milk machine on a pair of udders. I do, he said. At least now I knew he could say those 2 words together. I like the quiet, and I know these girls are happy to see me. He was referring to the cows. We enjoy each other's company without saying anything at all. Don't you like talking to people? I asked him. Sure, he said, but sometimes the quiet is nice too. Jeffrey's like that in school, I said. We do a lot of hanging out together, but he never says too much. Sometimes I wish he would, so I knew exactly what he was thinking and feeling. Maybe he's just waiting for the right moment, Charlie said, moving on to the next cow, which happened to be Bessie. She looked at me, and I smiled at her. Charlie sat on a stool. Or maybe he's too chicken to say anything, I said. I reached out and I touched Bessie's tickle spot. She swung her tail around and it slapped Charlie right across his cheek. Bessie was my special cow, but when it came to her tail, she was no different from the rest. That thing was disgusting. She left Charlie looking like he'd been clobbered upside the head with a cow patty. Gosh darn it, he hollered. I couldn't contain my laughter. She got me good. He sputtered and spit rising from his stool. He wiped his face on his shirt sleeve and marched over to the hose. Maybe she was trying to tell you something, Danielle said. She'd been standing quietly off to the side the whole time I was chatting with Charlie. I'd seen her, but I didn't let on. Charlie waved at her, but didn't say anything. He was more concerned with sticking his face under the hose. Come on, Anna, Danielle said. We don't want to be late. We're having that big assembly today. Bye, Charlie, I said. It was nice talking with you. Bye, Bessie. I winked at her, and I swear she smiled back. I wish I could have communicated with boys just as easily. I wasn't talking about Bessie when I said that to Charlie, Danielle whispered. I know, I said. Hopefully Charlie is smart enough to figure that out. We exchanged the same smile that those twins in the Parent Trap did when they were up to no good. Hey, Nathaniel, I see your question. I haven't posted on the weekends, but I might. If you guys want me to read every day, I could. If you want me to read on the weekends too, just let me know what you think. Or I could maybe post a little video about my weekend. I did post this weekend on Instagram, but just not on YouTube. Okay. Danielle. All 7th graders were required to meet in the gym following homeroom for a special assembly. I found Anna and Jessica and Lexi and sat with them. Like, what's this all about? Lexi asked. I don't know, Jessica said. They looked at me and Anna. We don't know either, I said. Once all of the teachers had us seated in the bleachers, Principal Lee took over. He stood at the podium out in the middle of the gym. And he raised his hand. I remember my 2nd grade teacher using the same tactic to bring us to attention, but it didn't seem to work as well with 7th graders. A few of us stopped talking, but most of us didn't. To Principal Lee's credit, he recognized his shortcomings and put his arm down. Then I watched him reach under the podium. I couldn't imagine what he was going to do next. I'm glad I was paying attention because I was able to cover my ears in time. Principal Lee lifted an air horn above his head and blasted it. The noise was deafening as it bounced off the walls. The kids around me started screaming and squealing while covering their ears. He had caused an even bigger ruckus, so he went ahead and gave that thing a second blast. Thankfully, that made everybody wise up, and our group felt quiet. I'd much rather have you go silent when I do this, he said, raising his arm in demonstration. But if that won't work, then I'll resort to other measures. This is our first gathering, so I trust that you'll get it right in the future. Yeah, get it right next time, some obnoxious boy on the other side of the bleachers yelled, and got plenty of laughs in response. I looked over, and guess who it was? Peter. 7th grade didn't intimidate him in the least. He already was Mr. Popular. Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Now sit down, Principal Lee said, with all hints of joking gone from his voice. More laughter. Principal Lee probably didn't even know I existed, but he had Peter pegged. This is always one of my favorite events of the fall, Principal Lee said. I encourage all of you to listen carefully and take this opportunity seriously. Your social studies teacher, Mr. Smith, will now explain student government to you and how you can get involved. There were more moans and groans all around me, but the mention of government had me thinking of my family's ongoing, though quiet, land war with the Native Americans. If I listened to Grandma and Grandpa, it was clear our government was the one who couldn't always be trusted. I wondered if that was the kind of system our 7th grade government would be, one built on false promises. I was thankful that I had a group of friends that I knew I could trust. Student government is your opportunity to get involved, to have a voice, Mr. Smith said. For the remainder of the assembly, our 7th grade teachers took turns explaining the various positions in student government. Before they got done, I started to feel blah and spaced out, so I didn't hear everything that Mr. Smith had to say, but the gist of it was that we needed to elect a president, a vice president. Hey, Alina, how's it going? A treasurer and a secretary. Those deciding to run would have to organize campaigns. There would be a need for speechwriters, artwork and posters, slogans, and promises. We will assemble in December to hear speeches, after which you will be able to cast your votes, Mr. Smith said. Since 7th grade is your first year, all being together, we would like to hold our election later than the other grades, so you have the opportunity to get to know your classmates beforehand. The last thing I'll say is that this should not be a popularity contest. I was glad he was finishing with things to say, because I was beginning to feel even worse. I'm running for president, Lexi whispered to us. Anna, Jessica, and I looked at each other, none of us surprised. Lexi still loved attention, and she was already popular among 7th graders. Mr. Smith could tell us it wasn't a popularity contest all he wanted, but we knew exactly what it was. Oh, Alina, I'm not sure why you can't see the video, but it will upload after I'm done going live, after I'm done reading, and then you can watch it. Hope you're doing well, sweetie. Jessica, you'll need to be my speechwriter, and Anna and Danielle, you could be in charge of my posters and that sort of thing, Lexi said. The three of us exchanged glances and rolled our eyes. Lexi was in charge. Everybody look out. Of course, we didn't object. We hadn't been given anything like this to work on together since Mr. Terup's classroom. It was going to be fun. We need to tell the guys, Jessica said. Maybe they'll help. One day we'll talk about how this moment was the beginning of me becoming President of the United States. Lord help us if that ever happened. Jeffrey. I was hoping to sit with Anna during our assembly, but we didn't find each other in time. It ended up just being me and Peter and Luke. Even after we sat down, I kept looking around, trying to find her in the bleachers. She was good at making herself invisible. It wasn't until Peter opened his big mouth and had everybody staring our way that I found her. I smiled and she gave me a small wave in return. I didn't hear much of what was said after that because I spent the rest of the assembly stealing glances at her. She caught me once. In my daydreams, I always managed to ask her out, but I couldn't seem to find the courage to do it for real. I was afraid she might not give me the answer that I wanted. Did you hear me? Peter said, nailing me in the ribs with his elbow. What? I'm running for president, and you and Luke are in charge of my campaign. Thanks, Drift. I appreciate it. Any shout out I can get. So you guys know Miss Lurson also is reading aloud. It's on Facebook every day. This morning she read a book called More Bears. It was pretty funny. So if you have Facebook, you can go check out the Northridge Facebook page and see it. Because she's reading too. I'm running for president, and you and Luke are in charge of my campaign. What? I don't think so. We were on our feet and exiting the gym. I was searching for Anna so that we could at least walk out together, but thanks to Peter, I lost sight of her again. I wanted to punch him. I was on my toes, scanning the crowd. Who are you looking for? Peter asked. No one, I said, putting my heels back on the ground. Anna. No, shut up. Oh, I see how it is. You can't help me become president because you're too busy being a lover boy. Sometimes Peter didn't know when to stop. I said, shut up. I slugged him in the arm hard enough that he knew I was done fooling around. Hard enough that he didn't exactly appreciate being punched like that. If it weren't for the good timing of Luke, things might have gotten out of hand between the two of us. If it weren't for Luke, things might have gotten out of hand between Peter and Lexi too. And if it weren't for Luke, I wouldn't have been given the chance to hang out with Anna again like I did for our PowerPoint project last year. Boy, I love that kid and his brain. We needed him around more. Luke. Besides not getting to see my friends in the school year, the other thing that I'd been deprived of at this point was any sort of project to work on. That was a Mr. Terupt specialty. I needed him to get over here to show these junior high teachers how it was done. But as I listened to Mr. Smith talk to us about student government, I began to think about my opportunity for a project and how it had finally arrived. The only issue I saw was that there was no way that I could run for office. Mr. Smith could tell us it wasn't a popularity contest until he was blue in the face, but everyone knew that wasn't the truth. Only when we were leaving the gym and Peter mentioned wanting to run for president did it all start to come together. Peter was a popular kid. This could work. I started racking my brain, trying to figure out how we could make one of these into one of those Mr. Terupt sort of projects. I wasn't paying attention to Peter or Jeffrey, but something weird had gone on between them, and they were about to choke each other. There they are, I said. Who? They asked. The girls, I pointed. Just in time, I thought. Thankfully, these two relaxed. I'm running for president, Lexi said, marching up to us. The girls are in charge of my campaign. Do you losers want to help? I saw Anna smile at Jeffrey. Sure, I said. What? Peter cried. No, I'm running for president, and these guys are managing my campaign. You're running against me? Lexi said, sounding surprised. You don't stand a chance. We'll see about that. You best hope you don't have another mountain on your nose when it's time for your speech. Okay, Squeaky, Lexi retaliated. Now I was getting really excited. This felt just like old times, and then it hit me. It could be exactly like old times. Hey guys, I've got a great idea, I said. This was the first time that I'd been fired up about school all year. What? Peter and Lexi snapped. We should make Mr. Terup's classroom our campaign headquarters. They all just looked at me. What? This is a major project, and his classroom is Project Central. But we're on opposite sides, Peter protested. So we'll have two camps set up in there. But we don't even know if he'll be okay with it, Lexi said, or if he'll even be there. We all know he'd love to see us, and he'll be there. I miss him, Jessica said. Me too, Anna agreed. We already know that we can walk there all after school, I said, at least when the weather is nice. Our campaigns will work side by side, Jessica said, just like old times. Jessica smiled at me the same way Anna had smiled at Jeffrey. It's settled then, Peter declared. We'll go to Mr. T's classroom tomorrow after school and tell him our plan. Great idea, Lukester. That's why you're running my campaign. I'm sure to win. Truthfully, I didn't care about winning. I wasn't convinced that Peter or Lexi would make a good president. I was just pumped about being back with the old gang and working on a project together in Mr. Terup's classroom. Luke's 7th grade survival guide. Tip number 5, never stop thinking. No matter how dark the times, a great idea can give you a hopeful light. Drift, I probably will go on Prodigy tomorrow. I think probably the same time. So at 12:30, I'll jump on there. So I'll do Prodigy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll read to you guys. Jessica. Dear Journal, Luke's idea was perfect. Some things never change. I was so excited that I had to tell Mom. Somehow I managed to wait until we were all seated at dinner, which was when I knew I'd have her undivided attention. Luke came up with this genius idea today, I said. Luke again, huh? Mom, stop it. I'm talking about his idea, not him. She couldn't resist. She started in repeating things I'd said in recent weeks and doing it in a high-pitched voice of a girl dizzy in love. Oh, I haven't seen Luke. I wonder how he's doing. Mom! I banged my hands on the table, rattling our dinnerware. Okay, I'm sorry, said Mom. Just having a little fun. Tell me about this idea that Luke's that you were so excited about. I filled her in on everything. I told her about having everyone together in the same class and missing Mr. Terupt and the student government elections and our campaigns. And so you're hoping to visit Mr. Terupt once or twice a week after school, Mom said, to work on your campaigns in his classroom? Yes, I told you his idea was brilliant. It reminds me of the book I'm reading, Tuesdays with Maury. Why? Well, it tells a story about a guy who visits his old teacher, Maury, once a week on Tuesdays. Why does he visit him, I ask. Because he's dying. Mom, that's not the same. That's terrible. She should have known that was a sensitive topic after everything we'd been through with Mr. Terupt. She took a sip of water. I know, I'm sorry, you're right. It's just not the same. It's just that the mention of Mr. Terupt makes me think about books. He always had a way of making the stories you were reading come to life in meaningful ways, through real connections. He always knew what to put in your hands, and I miss that. Me too, I said, which is why this is going to be great. It's going to be just like old times. I'm sure it will be, Mom said. Eager for tomorrow, Jessica. P.S. Still no invitation. I'm scared to ask Lexi if she got one, but would she tell me if she did? P.P.S. Maybe I do have a thing for Luke, but don't tell. All right, guys, that's going to be all for today, but we will jump back in on Wednesday to find out what happens when they go to see Mr. Terupt. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you soon. And Drift, I'll see you on Prodigy tomorrow. I'll be in the Firefly Forest. I play from school, not from home. And my name is Zoe Raincrafter. If you need more information on how to find me, if you go on Google Classroom, you can find where I talk about what to do for Prodigy. Okay? All right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.